this Virginia governor's race as canary in the coal mine, bellwether, call it what you want?
I think bellwether might not be the best word for it, because statewide elections, they're subject to some of the winds that are affecting our national politics, but they also usually focus on a very different issue set. The types of things a governor deals with are going to be different than a senator or a member of Congress. But I think that it will be instructive to tell us a few things. First of all, it'll tell us if Republicans have any kind of a model for how to win back the suburbs. It's been really a big challenge for the GOP in the last few years, as they have eroded support in suburbs that used to be a little more, I guess, purple and now have become more solidly blue. At the other hand, this is going to be a testing ground to see if talking about issues around education is the right type of issue for Republicans to focus on. Glenn Youngkin has focused a lot on the curriculum that's taught in schools, the fact that especially in Northern Virginia, many schools stayed closed for a while. There are mask mandates in some of them, a whole host of issues, and he's made that the centerpiece of his campaign. If he winds up coming close or winning, this will be an interesting test ground for a type of Republican message in other states for next year.
Yeah, and that's exactly where we're going with the conversation. This is one of Youngkin's ads. Take a listen.
For 4 years.
I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
I'm Glenn Youngkin. I'm not a politician. I spent 30 years building business and getting big things done.
Dave, what do you make of the fact that so much of this race is about national issues?
It's not unusual for Virginia. And if we were talking about Virginia 4 years ago, exactly 4 years ago, end of October, there was a common thought that Republicans focusing on MS-13, semi-localized issue, but about the broader immigration issue too, that was going to be the rocket fuel that got them the victory. They didn't win that race. So Democrats, I think, have gotten a little bit confident. You could use other euphemisms for confidence, in that they think this is a state where when you nationalize the race, more voters are now in league with Democrats than Republicans. So by bringing up Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is happy to insert himself into the race, that they think that is the kind of election where, yes, there's other stuff to think about. Yes, is what the governor is going to do, what kind of education policies, what kind of parole policies is going to implement. But it's nationalized because Democrats think it's good to nationalize it. It's nationalized in a different way for Republicans. I think Kristin said it very well, which is that they're looking at this and saying, okay, our suburbanites, if you talk for months and months about the experience they had with their kids on Zoom, the quality of education they're getting in schools, is that a message that pulls them back to the Republican Party? So Glenn Youngkin isn't running around saying, I'm Donald Trump. He's trying a message that he thinks would be successful around the country. And I was with him in Culpeper today, not far. I'm near Richmond now. And he said, when I win, the Trump agenda is gonna get a boost. It was around the country, it's going to send a message about what parents want. That's how he nationalized it.
I'm glad you cleared up where you were, because it looks like a dark hole, and we appreciate you pulling over and taking
this is not actually where I live. I just had to pull over at the
we appreciate you pulling over and taking a minute to talk to us. That's a true reporter.
Thank you.
You make this point about tying anybody to Donald Trump for Democrats. They view that as Republicans' kryptonite. Here's Terry McAuliffe. Take a listen.
For Youngkin, the most important issue isn't jobs, it's repeating Donald Trump's lies.
Youngkin even said President Trump is why he's running.
Glenn Youngkin wants to ban abortion and defund Planned Parenthood.
Glenn Youngkin's far-right agenda is just wrong, and it would harm my patients.
Glenn Youngkin wants to roll back gun safety laws, including background checks.
Kristin, this was a Biden plus 10 state. That's 10, 11 months ago. The polls are tied. Why?
The polls are tied, I think, because Terry McAuliffe, even though he's a former governor in Virginia, it just seems as though there is, Dave didn't use this word, but I will, complacency, that Democrats are just, they may not have realized that someone like Youngkin would be able to thread this needle in the post-Trump era of both winning a Republican primary, but also being able to run in a general election as someone who doesn't look like Trump. He doesn't sound like Trump when he talks. He's not a Trump clone, no matter how many ads Terry McAuliffe runs saying so. And in a way, that montage of ads you just aired was really interesting, because there were as a different message in each one. And it's almost as though the McAuliffe campaign hasn't figured out how to define Glenn Youngkin. Do they try to say he's just like Donald Trump? Well, that's hard. That's not a message that really sticks. If you listen to him talk, he doesn't really sound like Donald Trump at all. And then they've tried this other strategy of saying, well, actually, he's like Mitt Romney. He's this big venture capital, private equity guy. Look, he was involved in buying away Taylor Swift's masters from him. You know, there's some ads out there that try to paint him as this Richie Rich type guy. And I just think they haven't settled on a way to define him as a threat that has stuck as effectively as, for instance, they were able to do when 4 years ago when Republicans were really amped up about something like MS-13.
Hey, Dave, I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you on the road, just having come from a rally. And oftentimes reporters on the ground see things and feel things that are happening in the last couple of weeks of a race that you can't pick up in polling. You certainly can't pick up from a TV studio a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand miles away. 30 seconds, where's this race headed, and what are the defining things that could change it in the last 2 weeks?
Well, for Democrats, it's getting their voters enthusiastic. I was in California for the recall. That was the secret. Much more liberal state, but they kept inducing panic in Democrats just to get them to turn out and hit the ballot. I think that's what to watch. And with Youngkin, it's if he closes out on the education message, and if he gets trapped up by any other national issue that doesn't cut his way. You saw the abortion ad there. If there's another news cycle about abortion, that's probably not great for him. Those are sort of the external events I'm watching to see if the electorate can be shaped. Because I think the candidates' messages, they've tried everything. They're just going to do what focus group's best for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, last couple of weeks, no more debates left. Kristin, Soltis, Anderson, Dave, appreciate your time for both. Great analysis. We'll be up there in a couple of weeks to cover the race. Dave, we'll check in with you then.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Vaccine mandates are about to make Chicago